Welcome to Moms Who Lead, where each week I talk to another mom who's balancing motherhood with a leadership role at work. Across industries, locations, and backgrounds, we're all facing the same challenges and opportunities. We talk about them here to help you balance your most important job with your career. So many of us have stories to share and advice to give. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And be sure to connect with me, Diana Mitchell, on LinkedIn. Now, on to the show. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with Amy Fenton Parker, who's President and CEO at Batten Disease Support and Research Association. Thank you so much for being here, Amy. It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, good. Awesome. Well, I have to start out by asking you just to tell us a little bit about yourself, your career, your organization, and your kids. I'd love to hear about it.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about my kids first. We have twin daughters. They are currently 23. We have one who lives close by and one who lives far away in Denver. And we have a 21-year-old son who lives in the area near us too. All of them live on their own and are self-supporting. So I count that as success. They're good people and they vote and they stay out of trouble and they all have good jobs. So I feel like we're in a good place now. I'm starting to just really enjoy my time with them. But when we had 3 kids under the age of 2, and I was working full-time as a bank marketing director for a local community bank, my life was crazy. And I always say I walked through the first half of my 30s. Just don't remember it. I just don't remember it.
No, I don't blame you there. I could not imagine. I couldn't imagine having twins anyway, because I'm a twin and my sister was 4 and my mom used to talk about that it was a blur. She must have felt bombarded. You must have felt bombarded, like you were outnumbered.
I did, and to be fair, I had fertility issues. We knew that before I even met my husband. And so, to just have the twins, we were so excited. And then, I'd only stopped nursing them like 2 months before because I nursed them for a year. Also while I worked full time. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole nother story. But then found out we were going to have Jack, and, that was a huge surprise for us. And I went through all the range of emotions from, oh my gosh, what are we going to do, to, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. He was a big surprise. And we got a little boy, which is what I was hoping for the whole time, because I felt bad for anybody who was going to have to be the little sister of the twins.
Yeah, that's true. That's tough because you're always going to feel left out.
And live in hand-me-downs her whole life. And
yeah, that's true too. Good point.
Yeah, the whole time. And we didn't look. So we didn't know what he was until he was born. So it was a great surprise all the way around.
Oh, that's great. And tell me about Batten Disease Support and Research Association, because it sounds really important. And I'd love to hear what you do and why it is important, because I can just tell.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about my career path in a few minutes, but I always say I'm a marketer converted to nonprofit. I have transferable skills. Marketing is about telling the story, and I just moved to nonprofit where in order to raise money, you have to tell the story. And the story of Batten disease is horrific, especially as a parent. It is a fatal childhood disease. It's a genetic disease. The formal name for it is neuronal ceroid lipofuscinosis. And it is basically a storage disorder. It's very much like Alzheimer's disease. Did I say there are 14 different kinds yet? Yeah. So there are 14 different known mutations for this disease, and that makes it even harder for diagnosis and to tease out effective treatments. Luckily, there's a treatment that's been approved for the FDA by BioMarin. It's called Brineura, and it's an infusion gone directly to the brain. that kids have to receive. And it's been proven as an effective treatment. So it slows down the progression of the disease and helps the enzymes empty out properly. I had no idea what it was. And to be honest with you, I had no interest in being the executive director of anything or the president of an organization. I always used to joke, like, who wants 13 bosses? And I would purposely say 13 because that's an unlucky number in most people's mind. And this is the only job I ever applied for. After reading about the disease, I just grew more and more interested. And I'm a rare disease patient myself. So embracing the rare community as a whole was important to me. And the parents whose kids suffer from this disease have to just watch a horrific trajectory of their children dying. And we have families who lost all their children. We've had families who had twins and lost only one. So it's really a difficult disease for everyone who knows about it to wrap their arms around.
Yeah, no, it definitely is important work I couldn't fathom. And so thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. We're an international organization. There's one in the UK called BDFA. It's the Batten Disease Family Association. And then in Australia, there's a very active group also, and they just call themselves the Batten Disease Support and Research Association Australia. And then there's a Canada chapter too. So, but we're the largest and serve internationally.
And how long have you been there?
7 months.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I started in January. So I was a victim of COVID. My last position was eliminated, and it took me, I don't know, 4 months, 4 months to find this job.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm certainly glad you did. And you're right. Going from marketing into nonprofit, it is, to me, I completely agree. It's a logical step. And so congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And so now here you are leading the organization, and I know with the heaviness of a board, I know what you mean about that. I've worked in that realm as well. What stage of your career were you at when you first became a mom?
Well, I was about a third of the way through my professional career. I've been in the marketplace for about 30 years, actually. Yeah, 30 years. And I had the twins when I was 30.
Okay.
So.
Did you feel like the role that you were in at the time, that it impacted, or how being a new mom affected you? Was it impacted by what your role was? Do you mind talking about what your job was?
Yeah, it was huge. So I was selling as the co-op marketing manager at a newspaper. I was working there while I was pregnant, and then after delivery for a few months, and then a position came open, which was my dream position as a marketing director for a bank. And so I made that transition when the twins were like 5 months old. And we lived in a town where we had no family. I had a few really close girlfriends, and 2 of which I still keep close, but it was a small town, and we weren't from there, and it was clear we were never going to be from there. Our daycare became our family. They're who babysat for us if we needed a babysitter. They were really an extension of our family. We did have in-home providers for the twins at the time, and that was wonderful also. So that really, for me, that was very helpful not to have to get them ready in the morning, because the other part of this whole equation is that my husband was a career photojournalist. So he worked nights and weekends, and we were tag team parenting most of the time for the first 6 years of the girl's life. Jack, we got introduced to when I was 31, 32. I was 31 when he was born. I turned 32 a couple weeks later. So
Was work supportive, or did you find like it
no,
was pretty? Yeah.
no. And, you know, looking back, um, I was I was blazing new trails. At that time, breastfeeding was just coming back into vogue, if you will. Um, and so I had a breast pump, and I had to pump 3 times a day at work. And there was only one bathroom that had an outlet in it. Um, there was nowhere else to go. And the thing that really made me mad was that I worked with mostly women on that floor. And there was a bathroom 1 flight below us that had 2 stalls. And because there was one man that worked on the floor and he was an auditor, so he wasn't even in the office most of the time, we took over the men's bathroom on that floor too and just made it like unisex. Plus, there was another bathroom at the other end of the hall, and people still complained to my boss, women, because that's all that was up there, would still complain to my boss about tying up that bathroom for 20 minutes 3 times a day.
And see, that's a shame. And I feel like many moms have a story like that where they didn't get support from other women. And I think there's a weird dichotomy there. And some of them are, well, I had to go through it and tough it out, so someone else has to as well. And then there's the other where it's the short-sightedness of not having a little compassion for someone else and trying to put yourself in their shoes. That's
Well,
a
I think
huge
I
shame.
felt vindicated because there were 2 younger women that ended up having babies within a couple years after I then had Jack. So when I started at that bank, the twins were 5 months old, and I'd only worked there a year, and then I found out I was pregnant with Jack. And so, no, I hadn't even worked there a year. No, I hadn't worked there a year. I was pregnant with Jack. I hid that for 16 weeks because I was terrified to tell them that I was going to have another baby. And actually having Jack is what changed a lot for me there, because that was when I just said, you know what? I am going to take control of this situation, and I'm going to tell them about my plans and how this is going to go for my maternity leave. He was due at the exact same time that my assistant was getting married and going on her honeymoon. And we had a huge community event that same weekend that she was getting married. But I just took control of the situation. I formed a committee. So when I told my boss, who was a woman, that I was pregnant, I also supplied her with the plan for what was going to happen during the remainder of my pregnancy and my maternity leave. And I will tell you that I earned a whole new level of respect at that time. At the bank, I think they thought of me as this young 30-year-old with these newborn twins. But when they got to see me come in, I had been being an order taker, if you will. That's what happened. I was an order taker because I was still learning how to do my job and what they wanted. And I was following an icon in the role who retired. So he was loved. And then he died 3 weeks after I started. So then he became a saint, and there was never going to be anything I could do as good as him. And so I just finally decided, well, I have to do it my way. I have to quit trying to live up to his expectations or what people held, his role in esteem, and do it my own way. And after that, things got a lot better, but I was vindicated because, like I said, 2 other young women had babies within the next couple years after Jack was born. And I had been, nursing and pumping for him too. Both of them then nursed their babies and pumped at work, and nobody made a big deal about it. It was accepted by then. So, I think back on that time and think, yeah, it sucked for me, but it really helped those 2.
Good for you. Was there anyone who you mentioned that boss who kind of like stuck by you or helped you kind of push these initiatives forward to make it not something people tolerated, but just a part of work. Like this is just a part of life and it's part of work. And was there anybody who helped you champion that?
No. I mean, realistically, when my kids were sick and my husband worked an hour away, she told me to sneak out the back door and don't tell anybody that I was leaving. And so that's when you think back into the late 90s, even, that's only 20 years ago. When you think about, and part of that's the industry, right? At that time, the banking industry was heavily led by men. And the town that I was in was a town that was heavily led by men and nepotism because it was a small town. And so, no, there weren't a lot of supportive people. I will say that the administrative assistant to the president eventually really became beloved to me, and she's really supported me. And like, I might tell her I was sneaking out because the kids were sick so that she would know, but I wouldn't go sign out when I left.
Oh, how long were you there?
6 years,
Wow.
nearly 6 years. And, we never planned to stay in that town. When my husband got his new job in Columbus, which is where we now live, we planned to move there when the twins were a year old. And then this job fell in my lap. And Chris kept saying, my jobs are hard to come by, but if you don't try this, will you always regret it and hold it against me because you turned it down? And so, he was right. And I said, okay, but if we're going to do this, we're going to buy a house and stay in town. And I've got to be, the marketing director of a hometown community bank. And that's what we did. And we agreed at that time that after 5 years, we would reassess. Do we want to stay? What do we want to do? And, life changed. And my boss told me at my 5-year review that the man who preceded me, his son-in-law, was now going to become my boss. And she was no longer going to be my boss. There were other things and responsibilities. Basically, the job description that I had written for myself the year before as a goal became his. And I came home from and she said, "You're doing a great job, Amy. Just keep doing what you're doing." And I thought, no, I'm not going to.
Good timing for that conversation to happen when you were already ready to reassess, make that decision a little easier.
It was. I came home and cried and said, I gave it the good try, but it's time for us to go. We need family support. I'm tired of taking the kids to soccer and Girl Scouts and everywhere else by myself because we were tag team parenting. It just wasn't a healthy lifestyle for our family. And it wasn't a healthy position for me in the workplace anymore either. And so then, that's what led me to really assess what I needed in my life then, and the things that were important to me at that time. I was, I kind of made a pros and cons, but it's a life balance wheel. And I figured out through doing the balance wheel that what I really needed in my life was to be closer to my family, to be more involved in my faith, and to find a job that was meaningful to me. And that's what led me into this nonprofit world, where I fell into a development role, which I had been raising money, as not a hobby, but as a volunteer. My parents were volunteers. We were always volunteers growing up. I remained a volunteer as an adult. And so I didn't realize there was this whole world of people who got paid to raise money. And once I did, I thought, oh my gosh, I was in sales for 10 years and I missed that interaction with people. So the Dominican Sisters, now the Dominican Sisters of Peace, they combined with other orders or other congregations to form the Dominican Sisters of Peace. So I raised money for them. They took a chance on me, and I was over their development department, but also over their marketing and communication. So it was a good fit. I had a staff of 5, and I loved working there.
That's nice. Okay.
Merger's what caused me to leave.
Oh, and did you find that it was a more supportive environment for a
Oh
working
my
parent?
gosh. That it was a completely different environment because it was all women run.
Yeah.
It was all women led, women run, and family was first for them and everything. And so, because it's a faith based community, of course, you know, they helped me grow in my faith. They helped me grow in my family. They helped me grow my family's faith. I mean, it was night and day. And I was so happy working there, and our family was so happy working there. They became an extension of our family. It was wonderful.
Mhm. Now, did you find there or anywhere else, it could have even been at the harder experience at the bank, that there was a piece of advice that could have almost been like a mantra or something that helped you, whether it was with balance or just in staying focused and in prioritizing? Any advice that really stuck out to you as a working leading mom?
You know, I'm going to go with no again. I think that the age I am is a unique time when my mother was working. And the women at the bank often said to me, Amy, I don't know how you do it. I could never do it. And I was like, yes, you can, because you have to. That's the thing. You have to. I've always been the primary breadwinner, and my husband can't have babies, and he can't, well, I mean, he could feed them and he did, but you know, it I did it because I had to. You do what you have to do. And um when my mom was working, she worked from 9 to 2. So she was there when we left in the morning. She was there when we got home until we were old enough to take care of ourselves. Then she began working full time. But I think the era in which I grew up, there were a lot of women who still didn't work outside the home, or they worked part time, or this was when women were fighting still really to get into the workplace. And so I think that my generation is the first large group of moms to enter the workforce and then have a family and figure it out as we go. And recently, a woman who works with me at the Batten Disease Research and Support and Research Association lovingly refer to it as BDSRA, which also is our website, everyone, bdsra.org. But she said to me, we can only do the best we can with the information we have at the time. And I feel like, looking back, that's so appropriate to me. I did the best I could with the information I had at the time. I have regrets, of course. I regret spending so much time at the office. I had a big job by the time the kids were in middle school and high school. I was the vice president of grants management and community relations for a foundation at that point. And I spent a lot of time at work. I mean, when I started in that role, we were giving away $4.5 million. And when I left, we gave away 13.5. So the job grew from the time I took it to the time I left. And I loved every minute of the work, and I loved working with the grantees. But there are times when I wish I didn't spend, an hour and a half trying to get home from my job in the traffic to get to a track meet or to get to a play. Or, I wish now that I would have spent more time, or at least maybe look for a job even earlier than I did, to spend more time with the kids while they were still home. And I don't think that there just weren't women ahead of me who lived my experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And you're dropping some really good wisdom bombs here. So, especially the yes, you can, you just do what you can when with the circumstances you're given. And then, yeah, no, I think first of all, my generation, well, you're not that much older than me, but we owe you a debt of gratitude, because now I find myself, and maybe there are other people, maybe I'm just way overconfident, that when I go into a job and legally they can't ask me if I have kids. I mean, I think we all know that by now, but
I actively bring up that I'm a parent, because if I get a bad vibe out of that, I don't want to work for you. I don't want to convince you to hire me. And I think that because of that, I totally like that time frame, that like 98 to like 2004-5 period was such a weird time. And that now we can stand up and say, you know what, your culture stinks and I don't want to work for you, and feel confident in knowing that there will be another organization that will step up and will provide that support.
Yeah.
And that's so important, because I mean, if we're not speaking up for the things that we need to feel complete and whole, then we're doing a disservice to everyone.
Right.
And I think that employers are recognizing that when people have balance, when people know that if their kid is sick, they can stay home, that they're going to do a better job. Like if
Right.
you're not constantly worrying, then you're focused on, like, it seems like such a no-brainer. And yet there are still many places that are in the Stone Ages and still believe that way. And certainly in your experience, it had to be a sneak out when your child is sick. Like that's just mind blowing to me, but not, at the same time. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry you had to go through that, but the
Thank
fact that
you.
you can come out and say, well, I'm really glad that I was able at least to make it easier for someone else is a testament to your own character.
Yeah. And when I was working at the that job where I was in grants management, the woman who we hired to be my assistant, I mean, she wasn't my assistant. She had a job to do. It wasn't to be my assistant, but I was her supervisor. And I was always adamant about that. Like she's not my assistant. She's our grants coordinator, and she coordinates all the grant work, and that's her job. But she had a 9-month-old when she started working for us. And, she was always timid to ask for time to go to his doctor's appointments, or, I mean, literally. And when they're that little, they're going like every month or every other month. And that's the one benefit of working in faith-based organizations, is that family is valued. And so, and this was another faith-based foundation. So we were open, like, go to the doctor. You need to be there for your child. And that's one of the exciting things for me now as the president of this organization. There are, I have 3 adults working with me, none of whom have children yet. And I want to be that type of leader. One of the things that kills me is that when I had our kids, the only plan that we had was short-term disability. I had to use all my vacation time, and then I had short-term disability. So I got like 60% of my paycheck. Well, when you're the primary breadwinner, that makes things really pretty hard. And I think it's ridiculous that 23 years later, that's still a lot of people's maternity policy.
I know.
And
I was lucky working in New York State. My daughter was born January 4th. And that was in that year was when they started doing family leave pay. We were so lucky.
Yeah.
So lucky. But yeah,
still,
I agree.
Employers don't have to offer paid leave. They don't have
No, yeah.
to.
I live in New York State where they do, but I'm like,
Okay.
there's only like 3 states or something like that where it's required. And the whole rest of the world, businesses are profitable. And yeah, they're giving parents, some of them give like 6 months or even a year.
Yeah.
People are asking for like 6 weeks for Pete's sake,
Yeah.
Ugh.
And that, right now our benefit package is small because our team is small, but I really do hope to beef up our benefits package. And I really do, because right now, short-term disability is all we have for maternity leave, and that's not ideal. We can't even offer health insurance at this point because our staff is too small. No one wants to take a team under 5. So, we'll be looking into that, because there are some group plans where a bunch of nonprofits can come together, or small businesses. So, that's a next year goal for me, but it's definitely a goal. And a 401k plan too. We don't have any retirement plans, and that's important to me. And it's important that our team has that availability. So those benefits are a huge goal of mine as a leader today. And it's only because I learned those things along the way. I mean, when I started my career, people were still getting retirement plans that were pathetic.
Oh, I know, right?
Mhm.
like that's unheard of now.
Yeah.
But just the fact that you're looking ahead and you're realizing like, hey, we can do better is a big deal. And the mindset of, I want this to be a welcoming place that supports the whole person. I think that to a lot of people who go from exhausted interview to exhausted interview, just knowing that someone is leading who gets it, it probably provides some tremendous peace of mind and confidence that you're making the right decision. Because it's for me, at least, I've noticed that it has been a more difficult decision to choose a job. And, thank God I've been very blessed in that I've had ability and opportunity to choose. That it's different when you have kids, and I'm the primary breadwinner in my house as well. So I get that. And it's very complicated, and it just showing that you're thinking that through. I think when you're trying to attract talent can go a really long way.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, um, the majority of my friends are the primary breadwinner in their homes. So more and more we're seeing that. And as women leaders, it's up to us to stick up for the family and say, this is not right. We can do better. Exactly like you said. I want to be the leader where we're not playing games. I don't want to dicker about how much money you make or how much, even if you are unhappy and want to go look for a new job. I have a teammate right now who I know was unhappy before I got there, does really great work. But, I said, if you're not happy and you're interviewing, then just tell me.
Yeah.
Because we need to plan for that.
Transparency and planning. Yeah.
So it's been an open conversation with us. And, it's, I want to be that type of leader, an open leader where we're not feeling we're too small even to have secrets or to feel like we can't talk to each other. And the other part of this, one of the gifts I think that has come from COVID is that just like our meeting right now on Zoom, we have the ability, we've all learned how to communicate using FaceTime, using Zoom, whatever, or to do remote work. And so I think that's a huge gift for a working parent, because you can be home. We have that ability now. And we know, like you said, if job satisfaction is good, you're going to be productive no matter where you're working.
That's right. As a matter of fact, I've been nervous throughout this entire interview that my daughter was going to come to the door and try to get in. And my husband promised me that he would corral her, but sometimes she slips through. So that's funny, but it's a gift. And I choose to look at it that way, even when the days are stressful and, my daughter's having a meltdown and I'm trying to get done a presentation or what, like, this is all a gift. It's a gift that I have a job that's supportive. And I work for a company that's supportive. It's a gift that my daughter is home with me and that we're all safe, all of those components. And I think sometimes it can be really hard to separate that when you're feeling so overwhelmed as so many parents are, and especially moms who are leading and have so much responsibility underneath them. So
yeah,
it's
there
important.
was a defining moment for me when the woman that I worked with, I told you, she had the young baby when she started working for us. And at one point, she was having a rough day. And I think she was feeling guilty because she was at work and her child was sick. And, we didn't have the ability to do remote work at that time. But she, was crying in her office and she said, how do you do this? How do you do this? And I said, you know what, Danielle, you have to get used to the fact that at some point you're always going to feel like you're failing everyone. And it's an awful feeling to swallow. And because you have one foot at home and one foot at work, and no matter where you are, you feel like that side's not getting what it's owed. And, knowing what I know today, I would say always err on the side of your family if you can afford it. You're never going to wish you spent more time at work, and if you are, you need to do the best you can. And when you're at home, you need to do the best you can, and one of the things that we made a big deal was we eat dinner at the dinner table every night. as much as we could. When the kids got older, it got harder.
Right. With activities.
But I will tell you another fun thing that I did that came out of a fit of anger. We have a very picky eater club at my house, and the husband is probably the worst. And after a very long day at work, me coming home and finding that they'd all gone to the pool, and my husband asked me what was for dinner, I was furious, made dinner, and then everybody complained about something on the plate. And I said, you know what? I might have said better for worse, richer for poor, but I never said in dinner every night. So it stops today. And you guys pick a day of the week, and then you will pick the meal, prepare the meal, and whoever wants to complain to that night's cook. And the kids thought it was a great idea because they were excited about picking picking the menus. But the best part about it was that I got to spend an hour each day when I got home with one kid at a time, teaching them how to cook. And for me, when you have 3 kids that are that close in age, everybody goes or nobody goes. You don't have time to separate stuff and figure it out. And there was a very little time that I got to spend individually with our kids, but that was one of the biggest blessings of our time. And especially by the time they got to high school, I didn't even have to talk to them. If they couldn't do their dinner that night, they were trading with each other on their own and making dinner so that when I got home from work, dinner was ready. It was awesome.
Great. Yes, I love it. And I love that the one-on-one time, it is so important. And I'll bet you that your kids remember and appreciate those moments too. That's so wonderful.
They did. And I kept teasing him. One time Jack cried and said, I am the only boy in 4th grade who has to cook dinner. And I said, yeah, but when you get to college, everybody's going to want to be your roommate because you can cook.
That's right.
So
that's awesome.
They can all feed themselves now too.
That's exactly.
Well, that was the other thing. I taught them how to do laundry, and I always had a cleaning service.
There you go.
Because I did not want to spend the weekends with my kids cleaning.
Yeah.
That was not how I was going to spend my time. And, I gave up other things like eating out or going to the movies every weekend, or, we made it work. And that was a gift to myself. If I have to work, then I'm going to use money to pay for cleaning support in our home. And that enabled me to have more time with the kids back at that same bank. One woman said to me, boy, I was signing out, and she said, going out to lunch? And I said, no, I'm just going to go get an iced tea, but it's a great day to go outside and the cleaning people are coming. And I am so glad it's Friday. And she said, boy, I wish I could afford a cleaning service. And I happen to know that her husband came and picked her up every single day, and they went out to lunch every single day. And I said, you can afford it. You just don't eat lunch out every day. And then I left to go get my iced tea.
For you, the peace of mind of not having to worry about the house being clean. For me, I would easily trade that for eating out every day for lunch, but I guess, to each their own, but that's
each their own. But ladies, I'm telling you, if you can find a way to afford it once a month, I had them always come on payday.
Nice. Yeah.
That way I knew they were going to, that was coming out of the paycheck, just like a utility bill. And if you think about that as a way to take care of your house and your family, there's, you can find a way to make it in your budget. I don't regret that decision for a minute.
I love it. No, so many good pieces of advice here. I just love it. I would say, I wish I was recording this, but I am. So that's great. No, thank you. And I just can't thank you enough. And I want to make sure that, again, if you can, to share the URL for your organization, Batten Disease Support and Research Association. Can you share that one more time?
Yes. So we are the Batten Disease Support and Research Association, lovingly referred to as BDSRA.org.
Okay, that's great.
So it's just the initials of the organization.
That's great.
And our website's under construction right now. It's there and working, but we're making it better.
Okay. Are you on social media as well?
Oh, yes. We are on social media. I think most of every handle is at BDSRA. We have Facebook. We have a closed Facebook group for our families, and then we have, an open Facebook group. We have an annual family conference that was just completed in the end of July. Next year's will be in Cleveland, Ohio, and it's our 35th anniversary. So we're really excited. We've had the last 2 years, we've had to have virtual conferences. So we really, really hope that we'll be in person next year for the big party. We have Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So yeah, I think my handle on Twitter is A Fenton Parker.
Oh, great.
I have two, but I'm not telling you the other one.
Yeah, I know. I have one too that I use for like my nerdy stuff, like my Disney. I'm all about baseball and theme parks. I'm a real nerd. So nobody wants to know that one. I get it. But no, thank you so much, Amy. This was fantastic. And thank you for sharing your stories. I know it's not always easy to go back, but it's so important. And I just want to thank you for sharing that so that we can all hopefully do better for our own teams, and also just be grateful for the opportunities that we have right now.
Yeah, I think it's our job as women to support each other, to mentor each other when there's an opportunity, and when and if we make it to a leadership role, that we do the best we can with the knowledge we have to lift up women in the workplace. I feel like that's my life's mission. Like that is my role. And I have a huge opportunity with BDSRA to do that. We're serving families with children who have a fatal diagnosis. And, I can't imagine that diagnosis for any of my kids, or being a parent that suffers through that situation. But what I can do is find ways to support their needs. So.
Well, thank you. It's important work. And I could not imagine, the empathy and compassion that you must have every day to help provide for these families and be strong too for them. That's a lot. I don't know if I could do it, but I have an awful large amount of respect for you to do that.
Well, thank you. I hope we've covered all the things that you wanted to hear about.
Oh gosh, yeah, no, this was fantastic. I'd like to send some like questions as a guide, but this is a conversation, and then just to help you think. So it's been wonderful. Thank you. You shared so much wonderful advice and so much of your story that I just can't thank you enough. So thank you for being here, Amy. And guys, make sure to check out that website. And certainly, I know it's tough times for a lot of people, but if there's anything that you can do to help such a wonderful organization, BDSRA.org. Do what you can. And thanks for listening, and thanks for being here, Amy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for sitting in with us this week. My hope is that you feel supported, understood, and heard. I appreciate that you took the time to be here. Let me send a quick shout out to our subscribers who join me here every week. I am so honored. And if you haven't already, be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. My URL is linkedin.com/in/Diana Mitchell 716. Take care out there, everyone.